So if I'm going to be doing anything differently, maybe I would just go for structured learning because it shortcuts my journey for me, and maybe I will be. You get.
Hi guys, so today I have something for those of you that have been learning design by yourself, and you may want to stay to the end of this video. I realized that people fetch different resources from different places and learn design, and they want to really make something out of that profession. But I have an issue with it. I'm not going to lie. The fact that some of us don't, some of us are all for structured learning. Make sure that you learn the right way. Make sure that you have like sequential how schools do their curriculum. But it's not a bad thing if you learn by yourself. And so I brought someone who is a self-taught product designer and has found his way to the top. I have here with me Samuel Lasisi. He's a very popular person. Like I want to be clapping right now. He's a very popular product designer. He's not just popular for being a product designer, he's popular for being the founder of Vadak Tech, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and Vadak Tech is a design learning academy.
Correct.
Okay, good. So, I didn't get that wrong. And Samuel is also a product design lead at the University of Nottingham in the United Kingdom. So, guys, I present to you a self-taught designer who is now a design leader. So Samuel, it's good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And I mean, your story inspires me. I'm not self-taught anyway, but it inspires me to know because I have this ideology that for you to actually know the depth of things, for you to become a leader in a particular space, you need to have gone through like some type of structured learning and all of that thing. So I want you to give us like a brief of your journey from how you started teaching yourself and how you became like a design leader.
Oh, wow, that's going to be a very long story.
I know.
I mean, but if I start talking about it right now, we might not finish this.
Yeah, I mean, you could just touch the major points that I think, because I have some questions that I would love to ask you. I mean, that would bring us into the light of the benefit, the pros and cons of learning by yourself, and then if while learning by yourself, you really need that structured learning. You understand? I mean, just for someone out there to encourage them that, I mean, the fact that you're learning by yourself doesn't mean that you wouldn't still make something out of it. It's frustrating. I know many people that have backed out. So, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that. Yeah, he's already introduced me, so no need for all of that anymore. So, yeah, I think it's been a very long journey.
Honestly.
Yeah, yes. And yeah, I would like to start with this. I cannot talk about my story or journey without actually mentioning where I started from.
Yeah.
Which is, brand marketing and comms designs. So I've been a designer for quite a while now, going back to 2016, 17, when I started design. I've worked in print, in fact, back in 2016.
Right.
And then, I started learning, teaching myself, designs around 2017-ish, going into brand design, marketing and comms designs.
Okay.
And I think up until, 2018, 2019, I did very, very well in brand marketing designs. I led a design team in a startup at a point, and I had about, 2 people that were, under me managing them. So I actually had a very good career in brand marketing, comms designs, right? And then at some point, I decided I would like to switch things because I wouldn't say there is anything wrong with brand marketing designs, but I just wanted something more. I feel like I've been doing this on one level of conveying the brand purpose, brand messaging to the users. So I wanted to hear what the users has to say to the brand as well, and that two-way communication that
Yeah.
product design brings for you, taking feedback from the user, using that to improve your product, and using that to serve your users or your customers better. That's what I got interested in, right? So that was how I started learning by myself. It was a very rough journey. I will talk about that, when you start asking me questions, right?
Yeah.
A very rough one. And that's one of the reasons why I thought about, starting Vedak, right? Because I found, self-learning to be very, very tricky, right? And I'm going to talk about those points later on. So I thought, there should be a way for people to, learn in a more structured environment, in a more structured way. And that has to do with, it helps you with building your confidence and helping you to actually, recognize your achievements. And talking about all of these points, I will talk about them individually. I don't want to waste so much time. So that's my journey.
That's a bit of a background. What I realized is a lot of us started from graphics, brand, marketing, design, and then we really just wanted more.
Yeah.
That is very good to hear. Now it leads me to the next bit of it, the how. Like, how were you able to transition? I mean, you were a lead designer, like you said, and then you had to transition into something different.
Yeah.
It looks more like you were at this level and you felt like, no, let me come down to this level to rise back up. So how did you start learning?
Yeah, like I said, it was very, very tough.
Right.
At the point where I got to discover that I wanted to move into product designs, UX UI designs, I started, looking at resources, looking at, watching a lot of YouTube videos, and reading a lot of articles around designs, around UX UI design, trying to introduce myself to that, sphere. And that was how I started. Later on in my career, I would always like to mention my wife, so she introduced me to, she was working at Decagon at the time, back in 2018-ish, 19-ish, when I was trying to do that transition and stuff. She introduced me to, some very interesting guys, Kelechi, who is now a founder of Face Lives. And then Reedwan, founder of Unboxed Gifts. And those guys actually, taught me a couple of things. And I've always, since my brand design days, I've always had a flair of teaching people stuff. So I used all of those methods I used to teach people to also teach myself, things relating to designs. And one of the most, interesting thing I like to talk about that I did was to, even though I'm not learning in a structured environment, I went ahead to look at, what people are doing in this kind of environments, right? There's so many reasons why I wasn't able to do that at the time. At that time, there was no real UX UI design school in 2018, 2019 in Nigeria that was really good, right? And I wanted, I had to look at, places like Brain Station. I could not afford it at the time. It was over $1,000, right? So what I did was to take the curriculum of these different schools and then look at, the topics there, and then try to use that to find my own path, learning from YouTube, Medium, articles, and all of that.
Right.
So that was how I started building myself. And I started building connections as well. And those kind of connections are really helped me a lot. I think that was it.
Yeah, so we have the case of many people starting out by themselves, and then they tend to fall down along the way because of the frustrations of not being able to make something out of it like swiftly. So it leads me to asking you, how long did it take you to, from the point of deciding, learning, and then landing your first product design role, how long did that take?
I think it took about 1 to 2 years, almost 2 years, right? At a point, right, in my career, while I was still, doing the brand design stuff, I started getting involved with, UX UI design projects, right? Because of, that influence that I have in that brand comms marketing design space. I had people trusting me with some of their projects, right? So I was doing freelancing at the point, but it's very difficult to see someone that would take a chance on you as someone who's just starting out as a designer. especially in our country where we came from, right? So that was really, really hard. Actually getting your first role was the hardest thing for me, right? So it was really hard. But what I did was, try to, put projects together, and I started applying. I remember, having a couple of interviews, and then I got one at the end of the day. But what was the question exactly
The
before I
question
started?
is, how long did it
Did
take
it take you?
from
Yeah,
when you started learning to when you landed your first role?
yeah. About one and a half, almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. So,
Yeah,
I mean, that's just to encourage someone out there that 1 year, 2 years into learning design doesn't mean that you actually get your
yeah,
first role. I think myself, I went through well, let me just say, I was introduced to product design through like some structured learning. So we went from learning the bits of UX into information architecture, even before we got onto Figma to start designing anything. So it
interesting.
was a bit of structured learning. And so when we started applying for jobs, it was easy to say that, oh, I had experience doing this and this and that. And I realized that most people start their um, product design journey from Figma.
Yeah,
Do you get? And I feel because they started from there trying to like just do a bit of design, they don't understand some basic principles,
yeah,
some grid principles and layout principles and structures and all of that. I'm going to ask you this very beautiful question now.
yeah.
What was could you highlight like some major challenges along the way of self-learning?
Yeah, yeah. I had a couple of them, but
Yeah.
the one that really stands out to me is constantly trying to compare myself with people that actually went through this structured learning. It gives you some kind of inferiority in the sense that you feel like you don't know as much as they do, and then that ultimately leads to appreciating yourself or appreciating the things that you know, right? So that's one thing. That inferiority stuff, I was able to overcome that at the end of the day. Another thing, I remember the point just now, and I just forgot that. Yeah, another thing is I talked about inferiority, not celebrating yourself. I wanted to talk about one more thing. I forgot it. It just skipped my mind now.
I mean, we can always get into that, right?
Yeah,
And so that were like the major challenges. You mentioned two things now: inferiority, comparing yourself with those that went through structured learning, and then not celebrating your little wins. I
Yeah.
mean, when I get people send me their design stuff, the first thing I always say that this is very good. I mean, just a bit of lighting up the mood before you tell them that see, just it's not meant to be like this, right? So I believe that celebrating yourself gives you some type of encouragement. And yes, how did you overcome? Maybe you'll remember the other line while you start this, but how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I think while you were talking, I remember the third one.
Good.
And the third one was, I was like constantly looking for validation, right? Something to actually validate that these things I've taught myself. Because at some point, I felt like I did not really know enough. Because I've seen people that I feel like, I'm better than this guy now. I've seen them doing stuff, even being, invited to teach other people designs, right? UX, UI designs at that time.
Yeah.
But, that constant, trying to validate what I've learned was there because nobody decided to take a chance on me, maybe give me a job, invite me to do something, or wanted to learn UX UI design from, because I'm really, really passionate about teaching people stuff, right?
Yeah.
I've been teaching people design since 2018, right? So I just needed that validation. That was one of the issues that I had.
Take a chance on me.
So exactly. So how did I overcome that? The first one, constantly comparing myself to others. How I overcame that was, trying to actually, give my best to every project that I do. So if I see what these guys have done, and they usually would post on Twitter, which I don't do even till now. I would, whenever I have a new project, right, I'll make sure that that would be like the bare minimum I would do,
Yeah.
for my own project, because I know that I can even do better. So that kind of gives me the confidence that whatever these guys can do, I can do better, right? That's one. The second, the validation part, that one, how I overcame that was actually getting a job, which is not really the best way to approach it, right?
Yeah.
You should be able to know that what you've learned is sufficient, right, for you to get, for you to be whatever you want to be, not even getting a job, right? But for me, it was getting a job that gave me that, getting my first role, that gave me that validation that I actually know these things, right? Because I know at the point when I started applying for jobs, right, I remember applying for like 4 major ones, right? One fintech, I think they're all fintech. One fintech, 2 fintechs actually, 1 social commerce, and 1 other one, I can't remember. 1 was career-wise. I did stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Stage 4, they chopped my high. They chopped my high in the stage 4, and I actually had to call them to say, I've not received any feedback. No, I sent them an email, and then that was really bad actually. They responded immediately to say, oh, so sorry, you've not. If I didn't send that email, would you guys? Do you understand?
Yeah.
That I didn't like about it,
forgot.
right? They employ somebody else. I forgot the rest of us at stage 4. That's not good, If it was stage 1, you could understand.
Yeah.
I passed through the 4 stages, and then.
Wow.
Anyway, that's that. Then I did with 1 social commerce platform. That didn't go well.
Okay.
Then I got 1 from there, and then the rest is history.
The rest is history, right? So my question now is, how did you stay motivated and focused during the learning process and trying to get a job with what you have learned? While you were trying to get a job, you were still learning. Yeah. So how did you stay focused?
Yeah, so I think the very first thing I would like to do is to appreciate the people that were around me. Yeah. That's like the very first thing, because it was not easy. There would be days where I would feel really, really down, feel really, really bad, right? Just because I needed that validation. That was the biggest thing for me, right? It was just about the people around me. They were constantly encouraging me to make sure that I'm on track, and then they were kind of boosting my morale as well. So that, and then the other way that I kept myself motivated was to actually start connecting with people. When I started learning, designs in itself, not just product designs, brand marketing designs, I had this lone wolf mentality that this thing I can do it myself. I'm just the one. I've learned so many things by myself. Right. I used to be a musician and learned all of that by myself. So all those things, right? I had that mentality, and I kept that same mentality, but it doesn't help, right? The best thing you can do for yourself as someone who's starting out in any career is to connect with like-minded people, just like people that would actually provide you with that encouragement, that morale boost that you need, because they are in the same level as you, they are in the same sphere as you, right? They're going to be the one to push you to say, let's do this next, let's do that next, let's do that next, right? So that's what I did not really have, right? But I'm happy that people around me were very great people, so yeah.
Oh, that's very good. Looking back, right, what would you have done differently in your self-learning experience?
Okay, looking back, what I would have done differently would be that there wouldn't be self-learning, to be honest. I'm not saying self-learning is bad, but the whole rigmarolling through that whole process, it would have been better if you were in a structured place, and then you're going to spend a lot less time to get to your destination, right? It's the internet, right? The internet has a pool of resources,
right?
You get to consume too many resources, and sometimes they can be conflicting. You learn A from Mr. A, Mr. B will tell you B is the best, right? That all conflicting theories, right, might confuse you, especially as a beginner. You don't know who to trust or who to believe on the same topic,
right?
That pool of resources and unstructured, picking things from here and there, was very, very, was not the best, right? So if I'm going to be doing anything differently, maybe I would just go for structured learning, because it shortcuts my journey for me, and maybe I will be You get.
Right. So, from what you said now, would you recommend self-learning experience to a new, an aspiring designer?
Well, based on everything I've said, right, self-learning has its own benefits because I was able to do that without having to spend so much money.
Yeah.
And if you're looking around now, you would see that most of these edtech institutions that we have, it's either you're going to be paying so much for what you're learning, or you're going to be paying so little for diluted quality.
Right.
Do you understand? So that could be a good point. You know, you get to not spend so much money, and then you still get the kind of quality that you think you deserve, right?
Yeah.
Based on what you're looking. But at the same time, that whole issue of shortcutting your journey.
Yeah.
That's what learning in a structured environment will provide. Learning with peers, right? Structured environment will provide you with that. It will also give you, the confidence that you've actually learned the right things, right? And then you've not wasted your time. Sometimes when you self-learn, you might just discover that you've been learning the wrong thing all along, right? That might not even be what fits. What is the you might be watching a video that's 10 years old. I mean,
right.
So those kind of things, the confidence that learning in a structured environment gives you is something that you can go for, and the fact that you are able to shortcut your journey that's
cool.
That's just it.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So what you're saying in essence is, as much as you DIY, it's very much advisable for you to at least engage in some type of structured learning.
Of course, yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go a little bit into VADAC, right? And I mean, you mentioned the reason why you felt led to, or let me say, inspired to start VADAC.
Yeah.
So how long have you been operating VADAC? And I mean, you talked about why you did that anyway, but can you just give us a little brief into the whole VADAC story?
Idea, yeah.
From start?
Yeah, very good one. I didn't even know you were going to ask me that.
I wanted to put you on spot.
Yeah, that's good. So we've been around for almost 2 years now.
Okay.
And then we've done about 4 cohorts. We've done 4 cohorts, right? We're going to start the 5th one now. So the purpose of why we started is we want to make design education accessible to everyone, and accessible in the sense that we are making sure that we are providing the best quality right to people, no matter their circumstance, right? Doesn't matter, because if you look at where we're coming from, and when we started learning, okay, I'm going to personalize it. When I started learning, right, I wasn't able to afford so much. I talked about Brain Station and the rest, and because I know the quality that they offer, right, we want to make sure that everybody's able to access that kind of quality. But and be able to afford it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we've discovered about the edtech ecosystem that we have around. Yeah. It's either you get very expensive courses with very high quality, or you get very cheap courses with very low quality. And that's the gap we're trying to bridge, right? And that's we've been doing that for quite a while. But before then, I've been teaching design since 2018, and I've actually seen people that I taught right in 2018 doing very, very good right now. In different positions. Some even have agencies of their own right now.
Amazing.
And that even at that time, 2022, when I started VADAC, right? That's one of the motivations, right, behind the whole idea, right, to actually see people grow and also contribute positively to the tech ecosystem in Africa. Now, something I would like to mention, right? We're moving into another phase in VADAC where we're able to, because I was talking about making tech education accessible. It shouldn't just be limited to design, right? So making sure that we're able to touch other disciplines of tech, right? And we're doing that by partnering with the top 10% of mentors in Nigeria and Africa, right? People from very, very interesting companies, the biggest companies in Nigeria, for example. Making sure that those are the people that are actually delivering these learning experiences to our students. So that means that we're not just talking about this quality of education and affordability. We're actually practicing it and we're delivering it with only the best set of people.
Yeah, that is very amazing. One thing that led me to asking about VADAC is one of the major things that we tell people that are learning design is build a portfolio.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was going to ask a question around that, and I wanted you to speak about VADAC first. Yeah. Right. So the question is, how do you, let me start with, in VADAC, do you guys build like a portfolio? Do you help your students build a portfolio?
Interesting question. So yeah, we do that. And we have this approach of learning by doing, right?
Yeah.
So you are not just learning something, you're actually practicing what you're learning.
Yep.
And at the end of each cohort, we actually make sure that our students have at least 2 projects in their portfolio.
Okay.
So that means that apart from the fact that we have a cohort-based project, they have personal projects.
Yeah.
We still split them into groups where they're able to work on group projects. So that's like 3 projects, right? Sometimes they're able to do the group one, sometimes they're not able to do that, but at least 2 projects in their portfolio.
So now my question, what advice do you have for someone building a UX design portfolio through like self-taught?
That one is very, very interesting one. So I would say that it wouldn't really matter if you're building it through a self-taught approach or a structured learning approach. What really matters is the kind of effort you're able to put into it and the kind of the way you are, explaining your processes. Because when we talk about portfolios, what really matters is explaining your processes and making sure storytelling and making sure that people are able to follow along and see why you're solving this problem and the impact of that problem as well. So it wouldn't matter if you're doing it alone or doing it as part of a structured environment. And what would matter would be those points I've mentioned. And most of the time for new designers or beginners, right, it's usually fictional projects, right? And those are actually enough. I used to tell people, you don't need to have life projects to actually get a job, right? I got my first job with a fictional project, right? And I was really, really proud of it because I did my homework, right? I built the project for quite a while, right? So that's the same thing I expect every other person to do, to make sure that you put a lot of time and energy into building your case studies and making sure that you're able to explain your processes the right way.
Okay, that is simply amazing. So let's just end it this way. I want you to help us to highlight and just wrap it up for us by highlighting the pros and the cons of going through the self-taught learning approach.
Yeah, the pros is that you are able to. One thing that's very important is that you are able to actually dig your head deep into all of these resources that I mentioned before and pick the one that works best for you. In the process of self-learning, you might discover that you want to go into UX research alone, or you want to go into UX writing, right? And not just UX, or not UX, UI design or product designs, right? So self-learning gives you the opportunity to do that. You would rarely find institutions, edtech companies, right? Especially in Nigeria, where we came from, where I came from, right? I'm from Nigeria. You rarely find, edtech companies that focuses on or that specializes in this UX writing, for example. So self-learning opens you up to that possibility of actually, streamlining what you're learning, and it also gives you the ability to learn without actually putting any cost to it. Self-paced as well. You have your own time to learn, but that's also dangerous. It could be a con as well.
Right.
So let's talk about the cons, right? The fact that you're not able to really validate what you're learning. You don't know if you're learning right or wrong. The second thing is you're not really you're not able to celebrate what you've learned. And that's one thing that happened to me, right? I will learn a new thing. I'm not able to, to share it, because what if something is wrong here?
You're not sure if it's actually industry
standard, right? What if this thing I'm doing is not supposed to be the way? And I found myself going back multiple times to learn the same thing I've learned again, because I found a new approach to doing it. And I'm not even sure if that new approach is the new one or it was my old approach that I started doing. So I found myself, going round in circles, right? So that's another thing that self-learning could do. Yeah. So
I
those would
have
be
I
the
have
two major ones.
one question. How did your self-learning experience impact your jobs when you landed like your
Started
full-time
working.
jobs?
Yeah.
It could be positive, it could be negative. Yeah.
Yeah. I think yeah, it did influence some of the things. For example, talking about when you do self-learning, you get to learn a lot of practical stuff.
Yeah,
Because
true.
that's what's actually available. Nobody really does a lot of theory or soft skills regarding how you're actually going to collaborate in a working environment, right? So practical skills now. I discovered I was really good at building components, working with component libraries and all that. And that really helped me when I started working. In fact, at some point I showed my colleagues how to work with components, and that was really good. It gave me a lot of confidence as well. So the con, right, would be that part of actually working or understanding how to work in an environment, right, where you have other designers. You won't really find people teaching you that. I had that issue. I remember there was a time where the PM was chasing me for something, and I just delivered it. The person that was the senior designer then was like, "Why? Why did you just do it? It doesn't mean that you're going to just because they said you should do it, do it." So those things I don't know. And that's one of the things that people should be taught in a structured environment, how to actually relate with other members of the of your product development team, right? And then some soft skills, how to communicate your processes. That is one of the very interesting, important things that you must have as a designer. So those are the things that I didn't really know, even though I've been doing some of this communication stuff in my comms and brand design time, right? But it's just a different landscape when it comes to product development team. So yeah, I didn't have that.
Okay, perfect. I mean, we'll just like round it off here. One thing I believe so much is the fact that you can always become a leader in that field, even when you start learning by yourself. The major thing I always preach is don't start learning by yourself and stay learning by yourself. You mentioned some things earlier where you were talking about network of people that helped you. Networking is another way to actually get grounded in that profession. Even when you're not able to afford structured learning, you need to connect with people that are in the field to be able to like grasp what the industry practice feels like. I went through a structured learning myself, and I never really stopped learning. I realized that for different industries that I worked in, different companies that I worked in, processes were different, and you have to learn to relearn, and all of that. So if you're out there, you're learning design by yourself, you can just go on, connect with us, connect with people around that that are in this industry. Let them guide you into some of the industry practices. You may be very good, you may not be so good, but what matters most is the dedication to that process. Like he said, it took him like 1 year to 2 to land a job. I find some people like just coming down to say, what, I'm not doing this again. I mean, I need to eat, I need a source of income and all of that, but it takes some level of dedication to actually get to that point. I'm going to put Samuel on spot now, and I just want you to wait for it. So when is Vadak's next cohort for design?
Yeah, so we're looking at end of April, starting of June. Sorry, May. Yeah, so that's because this current cohort is going to end maybe at the end of this month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of people watching this video that want to have like structured learning but cannot afford it at this time. So from me to you, how many spaces do we get on your next cohort?
Shall we talk about spaces right now?
Yes, please.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of offer very, because of what I told you about the accessibility stuff, right? We offer very competitive prices. Not prices now. affordable,
Okay.
price for our courses. And then we also offer the ability for people to be able to pay in
Instrumentally.
installments, right? And then
Okay.
we are also able to, if we actually see, in the past we've done, we've given people, free slots, scholarship, and all of that. So if we actually see the dedication, the willingness to learn, because what really matters to us is actually making sure that more people learn, right? So yeah, we can have free spaces.
Okay, so from anyone watching this video, I have 2 slots for you in the next cohort of Vadek's design class. And if you want to have that, I mean, just read through the comment section. I'll drop the details there. But I can assure you, 2 people watching this video are going to get scholarships. Please make sure that you're self-taught. If you've gone through a structured learning environment, my scholarship is not for you. Please, dears, make sure that you're self-taught. I would put the process down in the comment section. But thank you so much, Samuel, for enlightening us. I couldn't have even done this, because I went through structured learning. Even after I got my job, I still went to some courses, and I've always advocated for structured learning.
Yeah.
And I find that some people learn it by themselves. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't make it.
Yeah.
But we need to let people know what it is, what are the pros and cons, so that at least we can have a better design, space. Thank you very much for watching this. And please do not forget, look through the comment section. We have some scholarships to give. All right. Take care, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For having
Thank
me.
you, man.
Cheers.